What's up, folks? Spiderfly back again on the World Wide Web. Are you guys having a good week? I hope you are. Yeah, we're here. Back with another banger. This is actually a video I've been looking forward to doing for quite a while. It's the one... It's kind of the section of the game I am most proud and excited of. It's definitely gonna probably have the clickbaitiest title, because I think it deserves it. This section in particular, section 6, Making a Name, is the chapter about reputation, about how you interact with other characters, NPCs' roles in your characters' lives, and things of that nature. It's kind of about where your character fits into the world and how they navigate and interact with the world around them. The mechanics are pretty... The thing with this chapter is it's pretty understated. It's only like 3 or 4 pages. It's kind of compared to a lot of the other chapters in the book, it's kind of blink and you'll miss it. And I think the point of this video is kind of just to open your eyes up to like why these systems are the way that they are. It's taking really, really complex and advanced stuff and simplifying it into an easy resource management mechanic that gives you so much control and freedom over the narrative without being too complex or overwhelming, and without taking away kind of from what the Zone Master has to say. This is the chapter that allows for a lot more collaborative storytelling and really just gives you a better idea of who your character is and how they interact with everyone else. So yeah, I'll try and just get through it, try and just approach all of these in a way that explains what it does, but also kind of opens up to all the ways it can be implemented, because that's, I think, kind of the thing is like, you might not catch it right away, but I think these systems do what so many games have tried to do before in a way that is much more graceful and elegant than maybe they will give themselves credit for. I think that if you took these rules out of this game and put them into any other TTRPG game on the market, I think that game would be better for it. It's really some of the only mechanics you can just straight lift from this system and use in any other system, because they're pretty good as independent mechanics on their own. They don't have to be tied to this game, but they do lend a lot to it. So yeah, we'll get right into that. Side note, this isn't full of vodka. I'm using this as a water bottle because my other water bottles don't hold enough liquid. So if this is empty by the end of the video, I'm not wasted, I promise. I don't even drink Ciroc, I just stole this, so. Because I'm classy like that. Okay, let's get into it. Okay. So the first section of this chapter is reputation. Your reputation is how the people of the zone, of the plex, of the country even, are going to perceive your character. There are 5 types of reputation in the game, and you get reputation at the end of each session based on the actions not just of your own character, but of the party. This is very important, and I'll get into why at the end of it. So your rep score, that's something that's kind of referenced in this. I don't really worry about it that heavily anymore when I play. It basically just says that the total of all of your different types of reputation are kind of meant to represent, like, roughly how well known your character is throughout a wide area. Like, it doesn't really matter what type of reputation you have. If you have 100 points of various reputation, you would be pretty locally famous, even famous in other neighboring neighborhoods throughout the whole Plex. I don't really use that too much anymore, but it can be kind of a useful metric, I guess. But yeah, your reputation is broken down into 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different categories. So number 1 is renown. Renown is just how well recognized and known your character is. How famous are they? How many people have heard of you? It has nothing to do with whether what they've heard is good or bad. It's just, do they know who you are? All good press. All press is good press, right? So one mechanic that can be kind of fun is like for every point in renown, your character might have a +1 to being recognized. This is kind of like a loose rule. I'll usually half that result if they're in a neighboring neighborhood, or it might not apply in certain areas where they haven't been. But it can kind of be fun if you walk up to like a character and they're like, "Who are you?" And you say your character's name, and they go, "Oh, I just rolled the d20 +30. Oh my god, you're that guy." But more important than that is kind of what you can do with your renown. So the first one is kind of an illusion that certain characters, certain local figures, like, you know, high-level fixers, underworld bosses, political types, might not even consider doing business with you if your renown is too low. So your character not having a name could be dangerous, or could be detrimental, because, you know, no one's heard of you, no one wants to work with you. But having a low renown could also be good, right? If you don't want people to recognize you, if you don't want to be super well known, and, you know, it's easier for you to navigate places. But generally speaking, high renown is a good thing. It's going to make it less likely for you to be just like jumped by vagrants or something going down the street. If you're like the most famous gunslinger in the city, you probably don't have to worry about the random thieves trying to jump you with pipes and crowbars off on the side of the road. High-level fixers might start inviting you to exclusive clubs or venues. You might be able to get into places without paying a cover, get free food at a restaurant. You know, being well-known in the zone, generally what you want to do. Mechanically, renown can be used for 2 things. Number 1, you can spend 1 renown to initiate a showdown. We'll get into that in the next section. We'll get into it in the next section. The other thing you can do with your renown is you can cash in 1 renown for 1 show at any time. And you can do this with as much renown as you want. So if you have 10 renown, you can maybe spend 6 renown to get 6 show. You're going to be less well known because you're calling in. You're kind of spending your... The idea is kind of that when you have a big reputation, a lot of renown, it's assumed that a lot of people know you. And when you spend your renown, it is you kind of calling in, you know, it's kind of an ambiguous thing of like, well, how many people know your character? Who specifically knows your character? All your contacts and your fame is kind of in a nebulous sort of void. And when you cash it in, the reason it's going down is you're actually making concrete who specifically knows you, what specifically do they know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, if it's high, people are going to recognize you. You're going to be pretty famous when you spend it. You can use it to trigger showdown or to cash in for cho. And what those things are, we'll get into in the next section. So the next form of reputation is respect. This is, renown is like, do people know you? Respect is, do they like you? Respect is a really good thing to have. If you're playing this game, odds are your character is a bit of a scoundrel, a bit of a rascal. Oh, who's that guy? He has high renown. What did he do? Oh, he got into a shootout in the school zone. We don't really like that guy. Respect is going to be a measurement of how well the community likes you. So your peers, but even just people on the street, right? The idea of kind of like, nobody hates the gentleman thief who steals from the rich. No one hates the Robin Hood figure, at least not within your community. And so if you have high respect, you might be a scumbag, you might be a degenerate crook, But if you're taking care of your own community, people are going to have a lot more flexibility and leeway with kind of your moral compass. So if you want to be a moral character, even if you're doing things that are kind of in gray areas or are especially illegal, being a respectful person can help you get away with that a lot longer. So at any point, you can trade in a point of respect, so you're cashing it in. And when you do this, you spend it like a resource when I say you cash in. So if you have 3 respect, I could spend 1 respect at any time to re-roll a conversation check. So if I'm trying to talk to somebody or convince somebody of something, and they're on the fence about it, or I maybe don't sell them right away, I can say, oh, I'm going to spend 1 respect, and I'm going to roll that again. So it gives you a lot of freedom if you're playing like a conversation or like kind of personality-based character. If everybody likes you, it's going to be a lot easier to get what you want than if everybody can't stand you. The other thing you can do is you can spend a respect at any time to cancel out your infamy, and we'll get to infamy in just a second. The third, for your types of reputation is fear. So, renown, have they heard of you? Respect, do they like you? Fear, are they afraid of you? And fear plays along with respect pretty well. If you are doing good things in the community or in the zone, helping people, and I'll get into different ways, like examples of what might build different types of reputation at the end. But if you're like a terrifying figure in the community who everyone's scared of, that can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. So what is fear used for? Well, the main thing you're going to be using your fear for, and this is an expanded rule, this is in the back alleys and black markets, I think, that clarifies this. You can spend 1 point of fear at any time to cancel out your heat, and heat's the last type of reputation we're going to get into. So you can cash in your fear at any time to get rid of heat. It's a good thing to do. We'll talk about why in a second. But in conversations, you can spend 1 point of fear. Instead of re-rolling, you take a d6 and you add it to your result. So if you roll to try and convince somebody of something, or it's some kind of personality, or a grit check or something like that, it's a conversation check, you're trying to influence somebody, and you fail, but by like a couple points, like, oh, if I'd rolled 2 higher, I would have succeeded in that. Fear is really good where you're not just completely re-rolling, it's blind chance. You could be like, okay, I'll 100% pass this if I spend a point of fear. Or if I spend, your zone master might say you can spend a couple points of fear, whatever. But the trade-off with using fear as opposed to respect is whenever you cash in a point of fear during a conversation check, you lose 1 status with whoever you're talking to. And again, we'll get to status in a second. That's the one thing with this game, is since all the mechanics all intersect together, it can be hard to know where to start with, because it's like, oh, if you can do this mechanic to impact this mechanic, whatever. But yeah, basically the idea is fear can be a very useful tool for getting what you want, but people generally do not like being intimidated. It's usually not fun for them. If, you respect somebody, you might want to do what they're asking you to do, or it might be a lot easier to be like, okay, you're a good guy, I like you, I'll do this, even though I don't really want to. But when you're, threatening somebody, or if there's an implied threat, people tend to resent that. And so it can be harmful to your relationships with people. Maybe you don't care. Maybe your character doesn't care. Everyone hates them and is terrified of them. But it can come back to bite you. Shots. So the second to last, penultimate, I think, is how you use that word, is infamy. So renown, do they know you? Respect, do they like you? Fear, are they afraid of you? Infamy, do they hate you? So infamy is how much people in the zone dislike you. If you are doing really, really bad things all the time, and your actions are hurting people in the community, regular day-to-day people, not just people in the underworld or in the corporate world. It can also be, doing things that, would be kind of a blemish on your character's criminal career. So if you get arrested and then immediately give up information to MetSec to get out, that can be a valid strategy. People are not going to think very highly of you when you do things like that. There are certain crimes that are very, very lucrative, say, organ bootlegging. You can make a lot of money kidnapping people and extracting their organs and selling them on the market. But people in the community aren't going to like you very much if you do that. They're, in fact, going to be pretty invested in getting you to stop doing that. So that's all well and good. Normally, in the base rules, for every point of infamy, you take a -1 to all your conversation checks for every point in infamy. All the sirens are kind of fitting. I don't play with this anymore because I found it was kind of hard to track, and it was a little inconvenient because we'll get to this in a second with your whole party taking reputation together. If you're a conversation-based build and another party member is just being a complete piece of garbage, you not being able to do what it is your character is good at, which is talking to people, can kind of suck. So what we do now with the new rules is what are called infamy actions. This is where for every point of infamy you have, that is a resource for the zone master to spend. So you at any time can spend your renown, you can spend your respect, spend your fear to benefit you and use it strategically as a resource which is depleted, right? You're spending points and reducing your points to get what you want and to kind of push your way through the story. But the zone master can also spend the other two types of reputation. So the way you can spend infamy is I could spend some infamy to force you to reroll a skill check. So maybe you roll to convince somebody of something, and then the zone master says, yeah, that's all well and good, but you pushed 5 people off a rooftop yesterday, so I don't know if this person actually cares what you have to say. So I might say, okay, lose 2 infamy. You're going to have to roll this conversation again. Or I might say roll 1 infamy, or lose 1 infamy, but you're rolling with a resistance die on the skill check because, you're not very popular. Another thing you can do with infamy actions is trigger encounters. So maybe your party recently got into a big shootout and someone was killed in the gunfight, a civilian. Maybe a guy was walking his daughter to school and got hit in the crossfire and died. Very real possibility, very sad fact. Maybe you spend 4 infamy and that guy's teenage son has gotten his hands on a gun and has tracked your character down and is ready to avenge their father's death or something like that. It doesn't have to be specific. It's very kind of nebulous. It is very abstract. But in being a resource that you can track, mechanically, it is very, very easy to kind of wrap your head around. If your infamy is super high, you become kind of dangerous to associate with. And remember, if your respect is high, you can spend your respect to lower your infamy, kind of cancel those two things out. But if you have a party member who has like 12 infamy, it could be a liability having them around because they might not care if everybody hates them. But taking them on a mission could be super dangerous. Maybe you show up to do a job like a heist and you're sitting in the car, you're scouting the place out, and I say, okay, that guy loses 2 infamy. A civilian runs over and calls the police because they go, oh my gosh, it's that guy. We hate that guy in the community. Get MetSec down here and get rid of him. People in the zone hate MetSec. If you become more hated than MetSec, that is going to be bad for your long-term health. Which leads us to the last kind of reputation, which is heat. So infamy is how much do people in the zone, people in the street not like you. Heat is how much do the powers that be want you gone. Powers that be is kind of also an abstract term. It could mean the police wanting to track you down and punish you for your crimes. It could be corporations who are seeing you as a threat to their profit margins. It could be political parties seeing you as a threat to their control and influence. But it's essentially, yeah, the structures of power saying, this person is, we can't have this. If you're Robin Hood, you might have crazy high respect and no infamy because you're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but the rich aren't going to like that. Only the poor will. So the reason heat is abstracted is I found it originally, when I used to run this game years ago, I would be like manually tracking the police's investigations of various crimes. I would be like, this character's phone is wiretapped. This specific NPC is an informant. They found their fingerprints on the shell casings of this murder, and then that same gun was used over at this murder and whatever. It was a lot for one person to track with the ridiculous amount of crimes that get committed in this game. So heat is a much easier way to do that. Every time at the end of a session you've committed crimes, depending on how daring or public or, high profile these crimes are, the party is going to take heat. And then, like with infamy, you can trigger heat actions to have the police crack down or the corporations crack down. So for one heat, maybe you're walking from point A to point B and a cop stops you and says, hey, let me search you. We're doing a stop and frisk. That's a tough situation, but it's one you can get out of. Maybe for 3 heat, your car is pulled over, the police want to search the vehicle, want to search the whole party. That could be bad. Maybe for 3 heat, while you're in the process of doing a heist, you run outside with the bags of money, and there is a plainclothes or an off-duty METSEC officer that happens to have a gun on him that decides, I'm going to be a hero today and stop this. That could be really bad. You could cash in 5 heat and say that the zone's equivalent to a SWAT team is raiding your place to try and find anything, and now you have to change safe houses. And then generally the rule we do is 10 heat can cash in 10 heat, and that character is now wanted with a Q1 case. And how we do court cases in this game is that has its own section in its own chapter. But you can spend heat to make the case the police have on you stronger. So I might spend 10 of your heat, you're now wanted, and then spend another 6 heat to say that they actually have a lot of evidence, maybe more than you would have realized. And in this system, I don't have to know exactly what that evidence is. It's kind of irrelevant. It's just you're committing so many crimes, they're so high profile, you have a ton of renown, everyone knows who you are, and then those heat actions are just an easy way to kind of abstract that thing. Like, I don't need to know if they caught your face on camera. I don't need to know if someone was secretly wearing a wire. I don't need to know if they were able to DNA test your blood at the scene of a crime. I don't have to know that. All I know is this character has a ton of heat, and it's a resource I can use, as opposed to it being just a detriment to your character. Again, someone having a lot of heat can be a huge liability to your party. This guy might be your top combat build, and you're like, oh, I really want to take them on the job, but he has 14 heat. So absolutely something is going to go catastrophically wrong if we take this guy on a heist. So all of these kind of paint a portrait of how is your character perceived in the world around them. How do your actions kind of impact the world around you? But they also do something really intentional, which is discouraging kind of murder hobo behavior. There's going to be no one mechanic that just outright says your character can't be the worst piece of garbage ever. You absolutely can do that, and it could be fun, and it could be a good time, but there's going to be consequences for it. If you kill a person, you're taking a bunch of heat. If you kill a person who didn't deserve it, you're taking a bunch of infamy. You're also probably taking stress because it's going to weigh on you too. And it kind of forces you to be really selective about, like, what we're about to do is going to be terrible and everybody's going to hate us, but this corporation's paying us $25,000 to do it, so we're going to weigh that risk. Or you might have it where a job might not pay a lot of money, but it might give you good reputation. Like maybe a teacher is like, I want to do a field trip for the kids at the Syndicate Vocational School, but this is a dangerous part of town. I have $100. Could you bodyguard me and these kids on a field trip for a day? And it's not paying a lot. You probably won't even get much sent for it because it's not a particularly dangerous thing to do, but the community will remember your actions. So at the end of the session, when your zone master says, okay, everyone name your favorite moment of the session, and you're all thinking back on it, you're going to get assigned your sin, your XP, right? But you're also going to get all this reputation, and you're going to spend your reputation accordingly. You're going to say, oh, that's a lot of heat. Let me cash in a bunch of my fear. Oh, that's a bunch of infamy. Let me cash in my respect, whatever. And it's kind of just the cherry on top of like, okay, next session, I'm going to have to deal with that. I have a ton of heat. I have to go on the run, or I have to go lay low, or I have to get a lawyer, or whatever it is, right? Yeah, heat actions. There's kind of like a table for how much heat you gain from doing various things. Certain side hustles will just outright give you heat. Laying low is, a good way to lose heat, other than, like, obviously you can spend fear to cancel it out, but if you don't have enough fear, or you want to keep your fear for whatever reason, right, you can also lay low. So if you guys skip a week, you might lose 2 heat. If you don't commit any crimes for a few days, you might lose 1 heat. You can only commit so many crimes before somebody says, we got to stop this guy. And you might wonder how come it's fear that cancels out your heat and not respect. Well, the reality is that MedSec is underfunded, understaffed, and they're all underpaid. Morale is super low. If they get in a call, they're like, listen, we could put together a unit and try and raid this terrifying underworld kingpin who, has killed the 20 people in the past month, and, we're still finding new bodies, right? Or we could stop the guy who's been stealing bikes. They're probably going to go with the bike thief, because, I was kind of thinking about this, like, these days the idea of shooting your way out of a police standoff is, like, borderline unfathomable. It's not going to happen. Once the cops have kind of found you, there's not very much you can do. You can try and go on the run and stuff, but it really isn't worth it. It's not really going to work out. But in the zone, that's a very real possibility. Like, MedSec raiding a safe house and the people there being like, I don't want to go to a gulag. I don't want to go to a post-apocalyptic work camp for the next 20 years. And there's 3 cops here, and we've got automatic weapons. Like, we're probably getting out of this. So MedSec is going to be a lot more, like, do we really want to protect and serve that bad? Kind of thing. Yeah, I think that leads into the next one, which is how we make our conversation checks. Okay, so we've talked about the reputation and stuff. Now we're talking about conversation checks. So in Geto Ratz, there are 2 types of conversation check you can make. There's what's called fast talk, and there are showdowns. Fast talk is just like kind of throwaway lines. Like, you might be able to convince somebody of something for a few minutes, but you're not going to, like, change their worldview. It's something like you go up to a bouncer and they say, oh, it's $100 entry fee at some crazy exclusive zone club, and you're going to say, oh, I was actually already in. You guys just never gave me a stamp, but I was already in here. Okay, roll fast talk. Whatever, I rolled an 18. He's like, whatever, I'm too busy for this, go through. Or you get pulled over by a MedSec officer. They're like, we want to search your vehicle. And you're like, oh, let me just, what's this $250? It was a 10. Take my money. It doesn't have to be anything big. It's just kind of like the throwaway, I want to tell somebody this, and I would like them to either believe it or listen to me. And like we said before, since it's a conversation check, if I had failed that one with the Metsec officer, I could spend a point of fear to add d6 to it, and he would like me less. I could spend a respect to re-roll it or something like that, right? But they're kind of throwaway things. They don't really matter all that much within the grand scheme of the story. It's just, how can I get out of this situation, maybe without immediately resorting to extreme violence? Maybe I can just like talk my way out of this really quick. The other one is a showdown. Now a showdown is like a war of wills. In the book it says a conversation can change someone's mind, but a showdown can change history. Wow, that's a lot of words. But you get the idea. A showdown is like a battle of wills and of status, where you are putting your reputation on the line to get what you want and to force the other person to back down. So where a fast talk check is just a skill check, a showdown is an opposed skill check where you are rolling like your personality or your grit. In some circumstances, you might roll like book smarts, maybe if it's like Oppenheimer debating Einstein or something like that. I don't know. But it is an opposed skill check where you are rolling to beat the result of another person. Now, when would you do a showdown? A showdown could be, you know, two hooligans facing off in the street, you know, deciding that this place is going to be our territory now. You guys got to pack up and leave. And it's you trying to be like, no, this is happening. It's kind of your character being like, I'm in control here. I am in control of the situation. And it's kind of a whoever flinches first loses. It doesn't necessarily mean you can get everything you want just through a conversation, but it's a way of kind of forcing someone to back down. So maybe you guys storm into a bank, and the bank teller, because it's Geto Ratz, has a, you know, biomechanical shotgun for a forearm bone, and it's going to pop out, and he's going to get into a big standoff, and you're going to go, listen, there's 11 of us and one of you, and that biomechanical shotgun is cool and all, but we are robbing this bank. It's just a question of if we're wasting a couple bullets on you to do it. And that kind of leads into the other point. So it costs 1 renown to initiate a showdown. Another character might initiate a showdown with you, in which case you're just rolling. It doesn't cost you reputation. But to force someone to bend to your will, it's going to cost 1 renown to initiate it. And the idea is, like, people in the zone, if you don't have a name, don't care what you have to say. You could be the most articulate, convincing person on Earth. If they don't know you, they're not going to listen to you. So it kind of means you have to build a bit of a reputation first before you're able to start going around bossing people around, telling people what to do. Yeah, and it can be used in a lot of situations. You could use showdowns to determine who gets to go first in a combat. You can use a showdown to change who's going first in a combat. So if the other people get the drop on you, but then you show down the leader of that crew, maybe you can reverse the turn order or something like that. You could use a showdown to get somebody to surrender. So if you're robbing a high-profile underworld figure, saying like, listen, you can always get another chain, you can't get another life, don't make this any bigger than it has to be. And it's kind of the main way of you trying to resolve conflict without immediately resorting to a combat. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean that this person or this organization just outright surrenders and you win, but it could buy you time, or it could win you kind of just get you out of a situation. So it costs you 1 renown. If you fail a showdown, so if you initiate a showdown or you get put in a showdown, you roll those skill checks and you fail, you take a stress. So there's a tiny bit of risk to it, but not really a significant risk. The big thing, though, is that you need to declare an angle. Whether you're doing fast talk, whether you're doing a showdown, there has to be an angle. So you don't necessarily have to roleplay the entire conversation if you don't want to. You don't necessarily need to know exactly what it is you say, but you have to have an idea of how you're going to convince someone of something. So going back to that other situation where we were at before, trying to get into the club, you don't want to pay cover, or maybe you're banned. That's more accurate probably for the situations of this game. Maybe you've been banned from this club. So you go up to the guy and you're like, okay, I want to roll fast talk or a showdown to get him to let me in. The zone master is going to say, okay, what's your angle? You don't get to just say, I want this outcome. Nat 1. Of course, a nat 1. 19, I get what I want. No. You have to say how it is that you're going to convince them. And again, doesn't have to be specific, but I could say, from my angle, I'm going to tell this bouncer that the owner's expecting me, and they're going to be super angry if I don't show up. Or maybe you could say, my sister's the bartender here. Just let me in. I just want to talk to her, and then I'll leave. Whatever the case is. If you are facing down with this, enemy hooligan leader, and you're trying to get them to back off of your territory, get them to go take their operations elsewhere, you might, the angle might be as simple as, we're going to kill all of you. It doesn't have to be super elaborate. But if you can't give a good reason for why or how you would be able to convince somebody of something, it's not going to happen. And you might come up with one and pitch it to the zone master, and they might just say, no, that's not good enough. They might say, you already tried that, it didn't work. Or they might say, this person doesn't care about that, or you're not in the position to make that kind of argument. It could be something as simple as, like, if you're outnumbered, you might not be able to convince them, oh, we're going to beat you in a fight, but you might be able to say, well, it's a good thing I paid that sniper to stay up in that window over there, and if you try anything, he's already been paid to kill you. You might not have a sniper up in that window, but maybe you can lie good enough. And that's kind of the idea. So as long as you got an angle, as long as you got the renown to spend, trying to resolve things without immediately going into combat all the time. And because of how we talked about reputation, like, getting into combat all the time is not going to be good for you. If you fight everybody who disagrees or argues with you, you're going to have a lot of heat. You might have a lot of infamy if you're going into shops and being like, you should give me a discount, and they go no, and then you shoot them. Things like that aren't going to look good. Whereas if you face off against, like, this famous, well-known person in the zone and just tell them off and make them back down, that's going to make you look super impressive, and everyone's going to pay more attention to you, which is all what we want at the end of the day, right? So the next thing we talk about then is status. Status is pretty straightforward. It's just a measurement of how close you are to a character. So it's on a scale of -5 to 5, with 0 being completely neutral. So if you're at -5 status with somebody, you are the most hated person to them on the planet, and they have dedicated their entire life to getting even with you. You are their sworn nemesis, and they, like, every fiber of their being is devoted to hating you. -3 might be like they really, really are after you. Maybe you killed a good friend of theirs and now they want revenge. That would be like -3. -1 might be like they just don't like you, you're unruly and gross and need to shower, and they don't want you around. But maybe they're not just gonna, like, hunt you down and kill you. They just might not want to do business or associate with you. 0 is kind of a dangerous one, because this person doesn't really care about you either way. And if it's just a random person on the street, it doesn't really matter. But if it's like the fixer that's employing your party and has hired you to do a really high stakes job where you're, stealing a corporate prototype, there's going to be a ton of heat, and they promise to pay you like $50,000. They might say, I could pay them, or I could just let them take the fall for this. That would be better for me. You got to remember that even if people don't like you, you're operating in a world and an environment where betrayal is constant and lives are often cheaper than the weapons that are taking them. And so if people don't care about you either way, that can be really bad if, they've been arrested and they're in an interrogation room facing 23 years and they go, yeah, do I really like that person that much? So positive status is going to be, plus one might be they like you, they've worked with you before, they trust you, you're reliable, they'd work with you again. Plus two might be you actually work fairly well together. They enjoy working with you. They go, oh, I'm on a job with this guy. Good, cool, I can vouch for him. Plus three might be you hang out outside of doing jobs. That's always kind of the metric I put it, is like, if you have a good professional relationship in, the professional crime, career criminal underworld, then that's good. But, are you guys going to get drinks after the job? Are you guys going to, share an apartment or something like that while you're looking for work or looking for your next big score? Are you guys going to just spend time hanging out because you enjoy each other's company? That'll be plus three. And then plus five would be like, this person will go to the ends of the earth for you. They would throw themselves in front of a bullet for you. They would take a life sentence or a death sentence for you if they had to. It's like ultimate loyalty. Like four might be like the love of your life. Five is like even beyond that, right? The general rule is for every point of status, positive or negative, you have with an NPC, that is the plus or minus to a conversation check. So if I have 4 personality, I'm trying to convince you of something, but we're at -3 status, you hate me, it might not be enough. In this case, it was. But, people are less likely or more likely to help you based on if they like you or not. And the other thing, like we said before, anytime you spend fear on a conversation check like this, your status with this person is going to go down. Do you need to know the status you're at with every single person all the time? No, absolutely not. You don't have to keep track of that. The characters, if they're adding a contact, you might just say, put yourself at status this. Or if they have a really good roleplay interaction or something cool happens, you might go, your status goes up by 1 with this person. But generally, you might just ask, like when it comes up, oh, you want a conversation check with this guy? What do you think your status is with this character? And that player might be like, I don't know, we've only met like twice, so like 1, and I might be like, maybe 0, you're at 0. You don't have to keep track of it all of the time, but it can be kind of good with like recurring NPCs or people that you're interacting with a lot. The other thing, like it can also be if you're rolling like how likely this person is to betray you, your status might be relevant. Oh, and if this character dies, you might take stress equal to that positive status. So this is where it can be really hard to betray characters that you like, because someone might pay you and say, hey, I'll give you 20,000 to kill this guy. And you're like, oh yeah, 20,000. You think about it, you're like, wait, that's my best friend on the planet. Like, am I really considering doing that? And you can do it. No mechanic in the game is going to say you can't do that, but you're going to take additional stress. So maybe you would take 2 stress normally, but you were at status 3 with this person, so now you've taken 5. Suddenly you're not looking so hot. The next one is a bond. A character can only have 1 bond at any time. And it's not something you have to do at all. But if it makes sense for the character, if you are really, really close, instead of measuring your relationship in status, you can just say that you are bonded with this person. And what that does is both of you have a +1 enviro, so a +1 to all your skill checks when you are together. If it's a partner in crime, your best friend, you grew up together, you were in a zone orphanage, you raised each other, took care of each other, and now you're in a life of crime together. You're going to work well together. You're going to support each other well. You're going to bring out the best in each other. But if that character dies that you were bonded with, you automatically take a psych scar, regardless of, how much stress you have. It doesn't matter. Stress isn't even a part of it. This is going to impact you negatively. And I would even say at my table, like, you don't roll for a scar. Like, you roll until you take a scar. Like, it's not just going to be like, oh, I rolled, I didn't actually take a scar. No, like, you will. This is going to impact you badly. So it's kind of a risk. It can be definitely worth it, but it can also be kind of dangerous. It's not a mechanic we play with a whole ton. It can be fun if you want to kind of add that element, but you honestly don't need to, just to say, like, I'm really close with this person. But it can be a fun mechanic if you want to do that. The last thing kind of in this status reputation thing is a pretty new mechanic. It's called a secret. So secrets are pieces of information that are very, very valuable. You might be the only one who knows it. You might be in a very small group of people that know it. It could be a lot of things. It could be a secret passageway from the zone into the Plex under the wall that no one seems to know about that you've discovered. It could be a blackmail on a really important figure, or it could be knowing a big event that's going to go down. Maybe this corporation is about to invest 10 million into redeveloping this part of the zone. No one knows about it yet. Inside information that can be very, very valuable if traded. So if, you know, the party or a character discovers some really, really important information, the zone master might say, okay, I'm going to give you one secret. So you have a secret now that your character knows that other people don't. You can use this secret to increase your status with somebody. So if you go up to that top underworld kingpin and go, hey, listen, I know you don't know me too well, but I know something that I think you should know. You could sell it for money, but you could also trade it to increase your reputation. That's going to buy you a lot of points with that person. You might spread that secret to the public. You might tell everybody you can find, and that's going to give you, in the book it says D6 Cho, but you might take infamy or heat, depending. So like that corporation, you know, you're going to make a lot of new friends if you go and tell everybody about this. Hey, yo, check this out. This corporation's buying up all this land. Everybody get your bag. But the downside is going to be, you know, that corporation might not like you telling everyone that. How valuable a secret is going to depend on the situation. And once you've used a secret, it can't be used again. So it's like a single-use thing. Once a secret is out, it's not really a secret anymore. But, you know, can be, it's kind of a fun little mechanic to play around with. Yeah, which takes us into my favorite mechanic, probably in the whole game, the Cho system. Lighting changing because it's getting late. I recorded this later than I normally do. Okay, so Cho. What is Cho? Cho stands for your contacts, your homies, and your opposition. It's kind of just an abstract measurement of your contacts and connections in the world. I've seen a lot of games try to figure out how to measure or quantify how well connected a person is, whether that's Cyberpunk's frankly kind of insane rolling up siblings. I have 8 brothers and 2 sisters, one of whom died. You know, it's a little much, it's a little unnecessary. Roll mom, roll to see if you have a mom. I have 2 moms, whoa. Things like that. It also, a lot of those systems are kind of rigid. Like it might be like, oh, you get 3 contacts that you can use those at any point in the game, but they don't replenish, they don't refresh. This game doesn't have that problem. So every point of Cho is, it's like a currency that you can use to buy connections. And depending on how much Cho you spend, the better your connections are going to be. So you're going to start with some Cho at the start of the game because your character has lived in this world longer than you've been playing in it, right? So they're going to have met people. Who? Which people? We don't know yet. And that's the best part about it, is you don't need to know every person your character has ever met or interacted with. We get to reveal that as the story goes on. A lot of the best moments in movies or shows, especially gangster movies and shows, is kind of the reveal of like, oh, I know a guy. And that feeling is always so fun in a show, but it's hard to simulate in a game. But in Geto Ratz, you know if you know a guy because you have a pool of points you can spend at any time and that you can earn to know more people. So let's say at the start of the game, you can spend them at the start of the game if you want to just say, I'm going to start with these contacts, or you can also save them till later on. So there's 3 ways it says in the book that you can spend Cho. There might really be more at the table, but it says here there's 3. So number 1 is you can recall an old contact or connection that might be useful. So maybe you are trying to get into that bar and the bouncer won't let you in. You might go, hey, I'm going to spend 2 Cho and can I have a sister that works as the bartender here? And the zone master is going to say, a sister, you're probably close. So I would say that would cost 4 Cho. And you say, okay, but what if my sister hates me? Like, what if she doesn't like me at all? Then the zone master might go, okay, sure, 2 Cho to have a sister that hates you that works at this club. That's a fun role-playing moment right there. And you didn't have to decide at session 0, I want a sister that hates me to work at this nightclub. That can be revealed on the fly. And as long as the zone master signs off on it, you agree on a cost, it's easy to do. And remember, you can cash in your renown. The more famous you are, the more people you know, more people know you. It's easy to do that kind of thing. The next one is when a new NPC is being introduced, and again, only if the zone master approves, only if this makes sense, you can spend Cho to reveal that you and this character have had a history in the past, and depending on how much Cho you spend, that'll determine how close you guys are. So maybe you've been captured by this corporate hit squad, and you're locked up, and you're going to be interrogated and possibly killed, and the torturer walks into the room grinning with a pair of hot pliers, and you go, wait, can I spend 8 Cho? And that's actually my sister. The zone master might say, yeah, that's awesome. That's going to buy you out of this situation. Won't help anyone else. And someone else might say, hey, wait, can she also be my sister? And the zone master's going to say, no, she can only be one of your sisters. One of my favorite moments in any campaigns I've ever run, and I'm going to ramble a bit because I think it's that good of a story. They were like, the party was like a secret team that had all been selected by this corporation to do this like anti-corporate like espionage thing. It doesn't really matter, but they were all on a mega rail. The train got derailed and crashed in the wastelands, and so they were stuck in the wasteland trying to get to this one location to get some dirt on one corporation for another corporation. It was this ridiculous, wasteland survival. They were like looting stores. They looted a jewelry store and like got a bunch of jewelry. They were like rafting down rivers and things like that and fighting monsters, and it was great. Partway through, it was revealed that the corporation they were going up against, who had secretly derailed the train, was sending out this elite like PMC death squad into the area to hunt the party down. I forget what they were called. But they were led by this woman, Sasha Dobish, and she was like, she had all this lore. She was like a drinker and a gambler, but she was like one of the best marksmen on earth. She had been invited for trials of like, high quality weapons in the rule book. Like, oh yeah, she was one of the people that tested that gun for that company years ago. She was ex-military. She fought in these wars. She moved here. She joined this corporate hit squad and whatever. Their contacts in the city they were outside of were calling them on a radio phone and being like, this hit squad came in from out of town. They're at the underground casinos right now. Thought you should know. They're probably here for you. And I didn't know how they were going to get out of it, genuinely, because the party was so poorly equipped, and these NPCs were so heavily equipped and had such ridiculous stat blocks. I was like, they are going to wipe the party. And I was trying to come up with ways to write around it, where it was like, they're going to cross through this hit squad's like base, there's dozens of these like enhanced, heavily armed spec ops guys hunting for the party. I don't know how they're going to get out of it. I don't want the campaign to end here, but also it makes sense that this is happening, and I don't want to just eliminate the threat. So it got kind of tense. Like, I kind of felt genuinely like I wrote myself into a corner, and that's not something I struggle with as much now, but I wasn't used to running narrative games like that. So yeah, I kind of felt I had written myself into a corner. I didn't know what to do. So the party's up on this hill, and they're looking out on this operating base, and the Black Ops unit's all there. There's dozens of them. They have a camp. They have mounted guns. They have a boat. They had been rafting down the river this whole time to get away from exploring the huge map I had prepared. They explored like 5% of it because they were like, can't we just raft directly to the location we're going to? Didn't think about them airdropping an inflatable raft and rebalancing the whole game. But, you know, that's the fun of it, right? So they're looking out, and they see the woman, Sasha Dobish, and her team. She's this, like, crazy sniper lady. And one of the guys was like, my character's background is that I'm a fixer. Like, I was, like, a mercenary, and she's a mercenary. We might even have... Is it possible we could have gone on a job together in the past? And I was like, oh, that's really smart. Yeah, your whole thing is that you're a well-connected mercenary. That's your whole character. She is a mercenary, very famous mercenary. Maybe you have gone on a job together. And he was like, how close can I be to her? I'm like, oh, like maybe like you've gone on a couple jobs together, or maybe you worked well together. He's like, can she be in love with me? And I was like, oh, yeah, like you went on a job together in the past and had like a brief romance of some kind, and okay, this is getting somewhere interesting. And so he's like, can I spend 10 Joe and we've whatever had some kind of fling or romance in the past? And I was like, absolutely, I want to see how this plays out. And so he walks down the side of the hill, and all of a sudden the moment where she raises up this sniper rifle and has him in her sights becomes very, very intense, because she's like, stop, I'm gonna shoot you, I'm gonna kill you. And he keeps walking across the field. She's like, back off, I'm going to kill you. And he keeps walking up, and when he gets right up to her and she's got the rifle leveled at him and this entire team of mercenaries behind her, he's like, I get down on one knee and I take the wedding ring we looted from that jewelry store in the first session, and I'm going to propose. And I think he rolled a skill check or something. I don't even know if I made him roll for it, but it completely changed the course of the campaign, because now that mercenary unit that was supposed to kill them was now harboring and helping them. And Sasha Dobish, who was this character who was going to kill them all off, is now escorting them and helping them do that mission and is a part of the team. You know, and I kind of got out of it where, like, you know, Twisters attacked the base and killed most of the team. So they weren't super overpowered or anything, but it was just a moment like that where I was like, I have no idea how they're going to overcome this obstacle. If they get into a combat with this group, they're all going to die and the campaign's going to be over. Because this wasn't like an open-ended campaign like I normally do, like a sandbox. This was more of like a narrative-focused, you know, singular area, singular cast of characters kind of thing. And they got out of it just by using the Cho system in a way that I didn't predict. But, you know, I could have said no. I could have said, no, this mercenary killer is not in love with you. But where would the fun have been in that? You know, it's this entire thing of like, now they get to help not only write the story that we're telling, but also to rewrite their characters' past and backstories in interesting ways. Now, if they had, you know, kind of contradicted that, where like, oh, that doesn't make sense because of this thing we already know or that thing we already know, that would have been fine. We would have just said, okay, whatever, that doesn't make sense. But those are always the fun parts in stories, are the reveal of, oh, I actually know this person, we've whatever before. And it's really hard to simulate that in a lot of games, but in this game, it's actually quite easy. As long as the Zone Master's like, yes, I love that idea, let's do that, then there's no reason you can't. So anyway, that brings us to the third thing we can do with Cho. That was a long one, my bad. The last one is you can recall a rumor or useful piece of information you overheard. So maybe your plan is to rob a bank. You want to steal from this bank. Okay, that's great. Maybe you spend a Cho and you were actually at the bar and talking to a janitor who worked at that bank in the past, and they let slip that, oh, the system is super old and it's like actually like these huge rats are getting in through this entrance in the back alley, and you go, oh, log that for later. Or maybe if you're trying to track down an underworld kingpin, you might spend 2 Cho and it's like, oh, I actually know a girl who works at this club that this guy goes to every weekend, so he's always there, and because he spends so much money and he just wants to spend time with this girl, he doesn't bring a lot of security with him because he doesn't want to intimidate her or be creepy or whatever. Boom. Easy. Could you have gone out and rolled skill checks to gather that information? Absolutely. But it assumes that even when you're not playing the game, even when you're not at the table, your characters are still kind of doing their own thing, kind of like GTA 5 style, just around the map, just messing around, doing their own adventures, and we're only there for like usually the cool parts, or the parts worth remembering. So yeah, spending it to remember an old contact. And remember, there might be a reason you haven't considered a contact like this before. You also might not be allowed to buy your way out of a situation. So like if the mob has been hunting you down for 3 sessions and one guy goes, wait, can I just know a guy in the mob we can talk to? You might say no, because if your character knew somebody in the mob, you would have thought to talk to that person 3 sessions ago when the mob started trying to kill you. So no, you're not going to be able to show your way out of that one. Or it might be that a character's been introduced already and you haven't done the big reveal, so it doesn't make sense to do it. Another thing it says too is if a character is introduced, there's another thing called grudges, where if a character is introduced, instead of saying, oh, can we have been like friends in the past, you could say, oh, could this person hate me? And then you might get a couple points of Cho. At the start of the game too, you might say, I want to start with a bunch of enemies. I had one guy, for part of his character's backstory, be that he was a whistleblower, where he defected from one corporation and joined another one and gave up a bunch of secret research. And so he had a corporation hunting him down at the start of the game, but I gave him a bunch of Cho for it because that was a fair trade, right? So yeah, if for example, Sasha Dobish had been introduced, one of those characters might have said, oh, could I have actually been in a job against her in the past and she really hates me? And I might say, okay, have 2 Cho. Now she really wants to kill you, right? The last one, they did another example in the book, which is like, maybe your characters are on the run and you've skipped town and you go to another city. So you guys don't know anyone here and now you have to start from square one, right? Because you had to flee. Maybe one of your characters is like, oh, I know a guy in this city. He was a mercenary. We did a couple jobs before, but then he skipped town and he said he was going here and I haven't talked to him in years. So, spending 6 Cho, that could be good. How much Cho it costs is kind of abstract. Ultimately, it's up to the Zone Master. Certain things, if you're buying contacts where it's like, oh, we need an arms dealer because I specifically want to buy Q4 and under weapons. Usually it's 2 Cho for every quality of item that this person can provide. So if you want a doctor to repair your injuries, and then that can also sell you like low-level medical supplies, that might be 4 Cho. If you want some cultist who can give you really high-level spells, that might be 10 Cho. And then you might be able to spend more Cho in a contact later to get access to some of their more exclusive supplies, or maybe to increase your status with them. You might spend extra Cho to be like, can I be friends with this person? Not just I know of this contact, but we're good buddies, or whatever, things like that. It's very, very flexible, but it being a currency, it is a very, very specific thing. you can quantify exactly how much ridiculous shenanigans you can get up to. The last thing about it is, how do you get cho later on? You can get cho by throwing parties. You might get cho for going to social events. So if your party says, hey, Zone Master, can we go to the festival? The Zone Master might say, okay, each of you guys spend, I don't know, D6 times $10, and tell me what your character's doing at the festival. So one guy might say, okay, I'm going to volunteer to get on those big spinny wheels that people throw knives at and get spun around. One guy might say, I'm going to get really drunk and throw up in a back alley. One guy might say, I'm going to go hit on a girl and then get beat up by her boyfriend or something. Fun roleplay, really quick, and then the Zone Master might say, okay, each of you guys get a cho because you are actively interacting with the world that I've made for you to interact with. It's a way to kind of reward people for, interacting with NPCs, not just doing, what's essential to move the story forward or to metagame, but just like what is fun, you are a part of this world, and by being a part of it, you get rewarded. So yeah, that's cho. And what you'll notice about cho is cho isn't tied to a stat. It's all tied to roleplay and world interactions. There will be perks that influence it and stuff like that. But you can really drag and drop this into any game. It doesn't have to be in Geto Ratz. It works well in Geto Ratz because the game is built around systems like this, and it kind of fits that tone of it being like a, Geto Ratz is really good for roguish characters that, will die if they take a bunch of damage, but are good at talking their way out of problems, or always knowing one person who can always bail them out of a situation and stuff like that. And this system really plays into making you feel like, this might be the first time I've played this game. I don't know a single thing about the world, but that doesn't mean my character doesn't. My character is actually super well connected and very suave and charismatic. And so you can roleplay that pretty easily. You don't have to write, a 20-page backstory. You can just say, oh, it would be really cool if I knew that guy because this, and then the Zone Master is going to get excited too because they didn't think about that. They're going to go, oh yeah, absolutely, you know this person, maybe you did a job together, and they're going to go, yeah, we did a job. Cool. Doesn't have to be super detailed, doesn't have to be complicated, but you get to write your character into the world, not just, interact with it from a distance. So the last thing in this chapter is friend or foe, and that is just the different types of relationships you can have with NPCs. This isn't like a strict rule. It's just easier for like Zone Masters who aren't used to, like, this is kind of the thing with a game like Geto Ratz is most campaigns of Geto Ratz I will run will take place largely in one neighborhood. I've had campaigns that took like entire 6-month campaigns that have taken place within a 5-square block radius. It's very dense. You're going to be interacting with the same characters over and over again, and you might, across multiple campaigns or multiple characters, still be interacting with the same NPC because that shop owner might outlive all 11 of your characters who are constantly getting up to no good. So it divides them into a few categories. The first one is contacts. Contacts are people that aren't really necessarily your friend. They're more like vendors. So if you need to buy weapons or medical supplies or spells, or you need someone who can launder money for you. You need a lawyer who can take care of something, someone who can sell you information, or even people that'll buy things from you. Contacts are going to be they're going to be how you access anything worth having. You need good contacts to get by. That is essential. The quality of goods you can get will be equal to how much cho you spend on them. So, qualities, if you spend 6 cho on an arms dealer, he might be able to get you quality 3 weapons or lower. If you spend, 10 cho on a drug supplier, you might be able to buy kilos at a discounted price or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? It's whatever your party needs. And you can do it on the fly. If you guys are bleeding out in a car driving away from a shootout, and you go, oh, we're all going to die, we need a doctor, that one character can say, oh, I know a doctor, how much show to know a doctor? And if the Zone Master is prepared, sort of a list of NPCs during their prep, then they'll know maybe how much it costs or be able to wing it, and they'll know who that character is. But if you haven't prepped it, then it allows you and that player to come up with a contact on the fly. So you might say, listen, I haven't prepared an 8-show arms dealer contact for this campaign because I haven't written the name and personality of every single person on Earth. And the player might go, okay, can I know an arms dealer who's like a war veteran, and maybe he lost every one of his limbs, and so he's just got like these metal skeleton arms and legs, but he still has connections in the army even though he can't serve, so he has a bunch of stuff. And Zone Master's going to say, great, I love it, we're going to call him Skelly, we're going to call him Skeletron, add Skeletron at status 2 because he spent 8 show and he's going to have quality 4 weapons or lower or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be that specific. It can be more specific if you want, but contacts are just the people that you can pay for goods and services. Usually not very loyal. They can be friends with you. Usually it won't end well if you are. Grunts. Grunts are NPCs that you recruit. You pay them. So a certain amount of money either at the end of every in-game week or at the end of every session, depending on the kind of campaign you're running. And grunts just do tasks for you for money. They can have, I've had it where grunts have entire arcs where they end up being higher level than the party NPCs and becoming the leaders of the group and like leveling up so high and having these crazy arcs, because a lot of the time NPCs are going to live longer than your player characters are, and so you get to kind of have these fun things where with one party you've recruited this NPC, he's level 4, he's 16 years old, or level 4, he's probably even younger than that. And then over a campaign that takes place over a long time, that guy might end up being the highest level NPC in the party when all the original PCs have died. You all have a new batch of characters, you still know the same guy. It can be fun like that. But grunts, basic stuff, you can hire grunts and be like, okay, these guys are going to sell blitz for me in this territory we control. We pay them every session. They do this passive side hustle, whatever. They might just be extra muscle. If you're doing like a hula gang run where you guys are like running a gang, then like every recruit you take on, usually be a grunt or something like that. But long story short, they're just people who do what you want as long as you're paying them, and they're not going to do anything above their pay grade. Just because you hire them and they work for you, they're not going to like assassinate the president of the frag when they're getting paid like $400 a week. That's not going to happen. Partners in crime, associates and accomplices. So these are going to be like NPCs that are more fleshed out. They're going to have like more than just a name. They're going to have like actual kind of backstory, more involved, and they're going to be like close with the party. These are going to be those other mercenaries or guys where you're doing jobs together. Maybe they're NPCs in the world that you can recruit to do a job and then they go back and do their own thing. Or maybe it's like, I spent 8 show, this is my childhood best friend, we've known each other forever, he's gonna come help out, he's like level 10, he's got this gear, whatever. Usually the Zone Master is gonna assign all that kind of stuff. But they're just gonna be like, it's not like grunts where you have to pay them a salary to stick around, and it's not like contacts where they're just doing it, as goods and services and stuff like that. They're going to help you do what it is you're doing, and they're going to want to cut. They're going to want an equal cut. They're not going to do all this stuff for free, but you don't have to be paying them every session either. They're your friend. They're sticking around. You're your partner in crime. Best friends for now. These are just kind of like a partner in crime, only even more so. Like they're not even really doing it for the money, they're doing it because they are close to your character or to your party. So even if things aren't going well, they're not necessarily like fair weather friends. Like a partner in crime might ditch you the second going gets tough. A best friend for now, probably going to stick around more, probably going to be, kind of more high level or closer to the party. or what have you. You got snitches. If a character, usually a grunt or a partner in crime or contact, but it could be a friend too, gets arrested, you're usually going to roll to see if they give up information on you. Some NPCs, your zone master might just say they would never do that. You might roll something more abstract. Generally, what I do is I will roll their grit with a -1 equal to the quality of their charges and a plus or a minus equal to their status with the party. So someone who hates you guys is not going to do 20 years in prison if they could give up information on you and walk away. But it can also be really sad when that favorite party NPC grunt that, you're paying them $400 a session and they're out doing odd jobs and tasks for you, they get busted and then they fold under the pressure and they give up the party. That can be really heartbreaking. The important thing with these roles, usually best to do them where the party doesn't know, and it creates a lot of tension when the party is like, oh no, our recruit just got arrested, and everyone's watching you roll and then hide the roll and go, who knows? Did they tell or not? Who knows? And generally what happens if someone's giving up information on the party? Usually the rule is if there is a snitch in the party's midst, someone who is actively giving up information on them, they're going to take double heat at the end of the session. So the powers that be will have twice the amount of resources and evidence and information than they normally would. So if the party robs a bank, it's a really clean job. They're all wearing masks and gloves. No civilians are hurt. They don't kill anybody. They make off in the getaway vehicle. Everything goes silky smooth. They might still take 5-6 heat because they robbed a bank. The powers that be are going to be angry, whether it's politicians or cops or corporations or whatever. But, they did it really smooth, so it's not going to be too much. But then if the getaway driver is secretly working for the police, they're now going to take 12 when they should have taken 6. And you don't say who gave up information. As the zone master, you just say, somebody gave up information, double how much heat you took. So you should take 6 heat, but someone gave up information, so take 12. And watch the party spiral as they begin whacking like every NPC in the vicinity of like, who was it? He got arrested recently, kill that guy. It could have been them though, kill that guy. Maybe it's both of them. And that's the other thing is you don't say how many people gave up information. Could be 12 people, it could be 1. The party doesn't get to know that. They don't get to know who. They can find out by playing the game. But it immediately, they become very suspicious of everybody and very murderous, and it can be horrifying and humorous all at once. When that party favorite NPC they all love, they're suddenly like, is it them? And do I care enough to do something about it? It's one thing to just cut them off. It's another thing to take them out, right? So it's create some interesting scenarios. Very fun, very scary. Last one is opposition. These are just your enemies, people that hate you, people you've usually wronged in the past, or maybe who wronged you, competitors, people you've betrayed, people whose toes you've stepped on, people you've done missions against. It says during character creation, if you want to start with more cho, you can take on enemies. It gives a little metric for it. You don't have to follow that rule exactly, but you can say to the zone master, like, hey, could I have it where my character, since my character, I'm spending cho to start as a member of this gang, could I have a member of a rival gang where we've fought in the past and they're kind of like my nemesis? And they're going to say, sure, that sounds great. I'm going to create their stat block. And I'll just say take like 4, you get 4 extra cho because now there's this guy out in the world trying to kill you. All good. And what it says is the note at the end is that NPCs might move between classifications. Like you might have a guy a little NPC who's level 6 when you recruit them, who's only making $600 or $700 a session to do odd jobs, but then they might have a whole character arc where they go on a mission and almost die and their friend's killed in front of them and they get a bunch of sin, and then now maybe they're not just a grunt anymore, maybe they're a partner in crime, maybe they're part of the party now. Or you might have a contact who maybe your player character falls in love with your arms dealer, which has happened in a campaign of mine, and then watches, suddenly they don't care so much about the money and they really care about your party, but then you betray them and now they're an enemy. Like, these classifications are not rigid. NPCs are going to move between these classifications, and you don't even have to use this as a system. Just think of it as like a way of categorizing NPCs. Like, is this person a friend of the party? Are they just working with the party for now? Are they being paid to do things? Are they, how well connected are they? Is the party just like one group of people that's buying from them? Or are they sourcing things? It can be kind of nebulous. You're going to be, as the Zone Master, managing a lot of relationships with a lot of characters, and a lot of characters are going to get introduced on the fly with systems like Cho. So it's just helpful to have a way to kind of quantify it. So yeah, that is Making a Name. It is like the shortest chapter in the book, but it has the most opportunity for kind of gratifying payoff. I love Cho. I think it is maybe the best mechanic in the entire game, because it's super easy to use. It's very flexible in how you use it, but there still is that rigidity of like, it's a game mechanic. You don't just get to say, I know the president of the US and he pardons me. Well, it seems like a lot of people have been doing that action these days. But it's just things like that. It could be a way to source information, to make contacts, to make new enemies, and most importantly, it allows you to write your role in the world, and to write your way into the game, and to help the Zone Master come up with new NPCs, come up with new story threads. It occurs naturally, and it kind of allows for like just emergent gameplay, things you wouldn't normally think of, things that weren't scripted, but once they get introduced to the story, it's like, yes, of course that had to happen. Obviously that happened. Yeah, feel free to steal it for your games. If you're running another game and you don't like how they use contacts and stuff, you can use this system pretty easily. You can port it pretty easily. There's more mechanics on, kind of how this stuff works throughout the game, but this is just the basic overview. It'll probably come up more later. But yeah, hope that helps. Again, probably a chapter that's easier to read than it is to listen to me talk about it. But I just want to do this video to make people realize how open-ended it is. Because it's really, really when there's 3 sentences or 3 little paragraphs talking about, oh, you can use Cho for this, this, and this. It's easy to be like, okay, whatever. But once you really kind of wrap your head around no, if my character goes to a bar, I can get Cho, and then I can spend that Cho 3 sessions later to use for this piece of information or to know this useful contact or whatever. And it just really helps flesh out the world in a way that's a lot more player-facing. A lot of this game is pretty technical and pretty specific in how rules are executed, and this just gives your players a lot more freedom to decide to write their own stories and to decide kind of their own place in your world. So yeah, I think I'll just leave that there. Any questions, put them in the comments. Again, I think you'd be the first to comment. I already did the combat video last. That was really fun. I want to kind of do more videos like that in the future, but yeah, I'm gonna go have some soda or something. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I don't know if this video will be up in time, but we're doing the launch party on the 4th of July, so hopefully I'll get some footage from that. I think that would be fun just to kind of post or whatever. But yeah, looking forward to that. Buy a copy of the book, man. Why have you watched this many videos and bought a copy yet? Try the game out. See if you like it. I think you probably will if you've spent this much time listening to me talk about it. Yeah, I'm talking about you, the one person who's watched all my videos. Yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. See ya!